Commander, the premier multiplayer Magic the Gathering format. Unlike 1v1 formats where you only have one opponent who starts at 20 life, in Commander, you have 3 that start at 40 life. The upside? Those extra opponents are the perfect tool to use against those higher life totals. After all, when you have so many potential targets, it's easy to draw unwanted attention, so making it look like the bad thing that happened is actually your opponent's fault is key. Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, how do I use my opponents against each other in games of Commander, all while keeping their ire as far from me as possible? Well, allow me to suggest 5 cards that can do just that, all while adding some neat fun and excitement to your Commander games. You know a great way to deflect blame while hurting your opponents? How about playing a creature that attacks an opponent during another opponent's attack step? Allow me to introduce Tainted, First Mate. Tainted First Mate is a 5/5 legendary Minotaur warrior that reads, Tainted First Mate can't be blocked by more than one creature. Whenever an opponent attacks with one or more creatures, if Tainted is tapped, you may have that opponent gain control of Tainted until end of combat. If you do, choose a player or planeswalker that opponent is attacking. Tainted is attacking that player or planeswalker. The real beauty of this card has less to do with the damage it does and more to do with when it does that damage. Tainted loves to fight, and he especially loves to fight when your opponents do, so it's easy to deflect any blame for the damage Tainted does. Now, in order for Tainted to shine, he needs to already be tapped. You could, of course, just attack with him, but that seems like a great way to draw an opponent's ire. No. Instead, let's look at other ways to tap it. My favorite is Paradise Mantle, a 0-mana equipment that allows you to tap an equipped creature to produce 1 mana of any color. Tainted acts as a glorified mana dork on your turn, and then a 5/5 beater on your opponent's. Sure, it's obvious who controls Tainted, but who attacks is your opponent's prerogative. Don't blame me for the Minotaur, blame them! They're the one attacking you. If you're worried Tainted First Mate may draw too much ire from the table, I recommend Rite of the Raging Storm. Rite of the Raging Storm is an enchantment for 3 generic and 2 red that gives each player a 5/1 elemental token with trample, haste, and, at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature. What's more, those elementals can't attack the player who controls a Rite of the Raging Storm. Every turn, your opponents make 5/1 creatures that only last for a turn and cannot attack you, which is a bit like Tainted, except that the incentive for your opponents to attack is much greater, and it's even harder to trace the blame back to you. Sure, your enchantment makes the elementals, but all of the damage being directed at one opponent is entirely under another opponent's control. In the spirit of keeping the blame squarely off your shoulders, you should probably avoid attacking with the elementals you get on your turn. Sacrifice outlets that give you mana like Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar are great uses for your creature, or maybe a card draw engine like Greater Good. Whatever happens, Rite of the Raging Storm gives your opponents resources, powerful resources, that they can use against each other and not you. Though, believe it or not, combat is not the only place to use our opponents against each other. Another great place is redirecting the targets of your opponent's spells, either to benefit you, harm another opponent, or, ideally, both. There are many effects that allow you to redirect a spell's target, but here we're going to look at Rebound. Rebound is an instant that costs 1 generic and a blue and reads, change the target of target spell that targets only a player. The new target must be a player. What sort of spells does this card care about? How about Jeska's Will? Redirect the target of Jeska's Will to grant its owner less mana. Give that Blue Sun Zenith to someone else? Put that Worst Fears into the hands of the intended target's hands? And then there's Time Warp. Time Warp is just one of several extra turn spells that target a player, and can therefore be redirected with Rebound. No, I would never play an extra turn spell. It was them! I'm simply teaching them a lesson. All right, let's get back to the combat step. It's a fun place to be. Our next card really cares about combat, but it also has uses in the other steps and phases of the game. Xantcha, Sleeper Agent, is a 5/5 Phyrexian minion for 1 generic, a black, and a red, and has one of the most unique abilities of any creature in the game. Xantcha, Sleeper Agent, enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. That is very strange, and when you read its second clause, it begins to make sense. sense. Xantia attacks each combat if able and can't attack its owner or planeswalkers its owner controls. Remember Tangarth? Here's a permanent Tangarth for one particular opponent. A 5/5 always swinging in at an opponent, directed by another opponent, is the ultimate deflection of responsibility. But that's not everything. Xantia Sleeper Agent has a third clause, one that is useful for the entire table, even its controller, while simultaneously damaging to its controller. Any player can pay 3 generic mana and draw a card and sap 2 life from Xantia's controller. Card draw? In Commander? Who wants that? Oh, right, everyone. I'm being told everyone wants that. Yes, we've achieved it, the ultimate way to use your opponents to do your dirty work for you. The only thing that could possibly beat this is a spell that gets an opponent's creature to kill another opponent in a single hit, in a way that nobody suspects. But I don't believe such a card exists. Moving on, Tainted Strike is an instant for a single black mana that gives a creature +1/+0 and infect until end of turn. This is a card that gets an opponent's creature to kill another opponent in a single hit in a way that nobody suspects. Your opponent swinging in to do some serious damage with their souped-up commander suddenly becomes lethal damage. Perhaps they've got a Malignus in play, and what was once terrifying is now mortifying. Darksteel Colossus is, for a single turn, a Blightsteel Colossus. Believe me, this card is incredibly satisfying. How many times have you stared down the table at a massive trampling creature going at somebody else and thought, I really wish that would just kill my opponent? All the time? Yeah, me too. With Tainted Strike, it can be. And hey, I didn't kill that player. One of my opponents did. This isn't even an infect deck. Don't put the blame on me. I just helped a little, I guess. I assure you, there is nothing more satisfying than contributing to your opponent's loss of life and then being able to turn, look them right in the eye and say, I didn't do it. Let them fight against one another while you sit back, deflecting blame. And with these cards in your arsenal, you can do just that. But now I want to hear from you. What cards in Commander do you love to use to turn your opponents against one another? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, whether you are playing Commander or one of those stuffy old 1v1 formats, you can't do that at Target and Walmart. So when it is possible, when it is reasonable to do so, try and spend your money at your local game store. You'll be supporting your Magic the Gathering community when you do.